Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you another Space Marine video to the channel. In recent weeks, I've seen a lot of videos crop up online about how to paint things like Retro Ultramarines and Retro Blood Angels. So more along the lines of the second edition color schemes. A lot of these videos seem to get a lot of traction. People seem to be really interested in giving it a go themselves just to experience what it was like to paint miniatures back in the day. One of the biggest flaws that I find with other creators making these videos is they tend to use the period correct paints, which of course we cannot get our hands on in decent quality anymore. eBay, spend a fortune, you're not guaranteed that it's not going to be all clumpy and horrible. So I thought I would take a modern approach to a retro scheme, and hopefully should give you guys the confidence that if you want to try it yourself, you can do it and walk into any of your local stores and pick up the required paints and tools. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so this is the miniature that I decided to go for. Once again, it's an Assault Intercessor. I just find them particularly useful for doing tutorials as they have the open pose. The model was sprayed black and then given a zenithal of grey sear. I then moved over to Ultramarines grey blue contrast, and I went over the entire power armor of this miniature in this color. Being careful not to hit the chest eagle or the shoulder trim. The reason for that is this is quite a dark color and I want to hit those particular parts with a bright yellow contrast in a moment. And if you go over these particular details with this dark blue contrast, the yellow will not sit over the top of it well at all, and it just won't work. So if you want to build a nice base coat for that really bright striking yellow trim that the Retro Ultramarines have, please be careful around these details. So here's an example of the legs so far, and I quickly just went ahead and got the rest of the miniature based up. And it looks like this. I didn't spend a lot of time making sure it was smooth or streak free, as I will be layering up later on. I'm actually just using this as a base coat. Imperial Fist contrast is the yellow that I was speaking about, and I decided to base coat the chest eagle Aquila skull thing and his shoulder trim with this color. This is actually just a godsend of a contrast. If you do not have Imperial Fist contrast, you enjoy contrast and enjoy using yellow, get one of these, you will not be disappointed. So I quickly bashed on a base coat of that on these particular details. One coat is all that's required, and it's absolutely striking. I think that's one of the most predominant features of the retro schemes is they were a lot brighter. They were definitely, I think more gaudy, more garish might be the right way of saying it, but there's definitely some nostalgic feelings for a lot of hobbyists out there in regards to these schemes, which I do understand. After the yellow is applied, it's time to move on to the red. So I went for Blood Angel's red contrast and applied this to the casing of the bolt pistol and the casing of the chainsword. Of course, if you're painting a normal marine, it would be the casing of his bolter that you would be doing. I looked in and seen if any of the retro schemes had red helmets for sergeants and stuff. I would have been tempted for this scheme, but I couldn't make it out as to whether the sergeants had color schemes, had helmet colors back then. If you guys know what the sergeant insignia was for a retro marine, please let me know in the comments below. I would like to know. Like I said, quick base coat with Blood Angel red. This is another one of those contrasts which I use constantly. It is such a great tool to have in your arsenal. It's such a strong color, it goes on great and gives you a nice smooth coat, pretty much one coat. From here I moved on to lead belcher and I base coated all of the rest of the metallic parts, so the rest of the pistol, rest of the sword, and that was pretty much it, to be honest. These models don't have any other flaring detail. I didn't stick purity seals or pouches or anything that would distract from the scheme. Nothing that retro marines would have had back in the day was applied to these models. I don't know whether it's just me, but I genuinely find painting Space Marines to be quite a therapeutic process. I enjoy painting them. Even all the little mad individual ones I do for videos, it just tends to be quite an enjoyable process. Next I use the new version of Null and Oil, which is obviously like the thinner consistency, which doesn't pool and doesn't leave quite as dark a coat on things, and I applied this to the entire miniature. Some people here might be screaming at this point, but trust the process. I promise you it'll be worth it in the end. But this will just reintroduce those really dark shadows into all the nooks and crannies, and those are the bits and pieces that we're not going to be touching off when we do the layering stage in a moment. At this point, while I wait for the Nuln Oil to dry, I'm also going to base the miniature. And I will say this now for all of you, I will never do one of those ugly goblin green bases. I absolutely despise them. I think they ruin most miniatures they are put on. So yeah, so no one put in the comments, you didn't put it on a green base, therefore it's not red. No. Okay, now that that's dried and I've based it up, I'm going to use Kaldor Sky to layer up the power armor. This is the actual part of the miniature that I find the most therapeutic to do, is that layering process on the power armor, being really neat and tidy and methodical. I don't like doing it as much on other things like Tau armor or stuff like that. It's just something about Space Marines. This will take a little bit of time. I think I spent maybe 20-25 minutes with Kaldor Sky and this individual miniature, which may not seem like a lot, but if you're doing 10 Marines, that's suddenly 250 minutes. It's just over 4 hours of painting time just to layer up power armor, so it's up to you. So yeah, I took my time, and all I'm trying to do is hit all of the flat panels being nice and neat and tidy. On most of the armor I got 2 coats to get rid of any streaks, any paint brush lines, anything like that, but I definitely left all of the dark lines between all of the panels just to make the scheme really striking and really stand out. Once I had finished layering up all of the Kaldor Sky, that's where I really got to see where the miniature was going, and I wasn't nervous about the result anymore. I was like, okay, this is going to work. I'm pleased with this. It's something I'm okay sharing on the internet, if that makes sense. Being extra careful around the helmet. Obviously, it's a key piece on the miniature. All those grills, the eye lenses, you don't want to fill those in. The bits that go around his ear parts, if you know what I mean. So here's the blue after it's been applied, and as you can see, it is quite striking. To reiterate all of the dark lines between all of the armor panels, I went back to Black Templar. I'm not going to touch the armor with this, but I want to get all the soft seals on the armor and just give them a coat of Black Templar. I'm not going to do anything else. We're not going to layer it grey or anything like that. The contrast will do its job and give you a fantastic result. But obviously that's going to be in the middle of his torso and all the backs of his joints, and it does act as a really nice kind of separator of all the blue. From here, it is time to layer up, I believe it's the yellow next. For this, I decided to use Flash Kits yellow. And I'm going to be very careful and layer up the yellow parts. Just like the blue, you got to take your time, especially on the chest piece. I literally went in with each individual feather and just gave it a little layer job. This is once again, a tedious thing, but it's time consuming. But if you want that retro feel, it's the price you're going to have to pay. Like I said, I don't know why, but I found it quite therapeutic. This kind of detail on another miniature would have usually driven me insane, but I didn't find it in this one. Continuing it on, I did it on the shoulder pads. They of course require 2 coats to get a nice smooth, bright and vibrant yellow. Which looks something like this. From here I moved to Evil Sun Scarlet. Normally I would have layered up the Blood Angels Red with a Mephiston Red, for instance. But once again, going back to the reference pictures that I was using, they are much brighter, much more vibrant. So Evil Sun Scarlet was the paint that I went for. I gave the casing on the bolt pistol and the chain sword 2 thin coats of this to get a nice smooth result and to make those particular details pop. I also took that opportunity to paint the eye lenses in red, and then I jumped to Ironbreaker to layer up all of the metallic parts on this miniature. So just all of the other parts of the bolt pistol, heavy bolt pistol, and then the rest of the chain sword. So teeth, handle, those kind of bits. These will be the last few details I did with a paintbrush to this miniature. This would be the finished result, but of course I wanted to add just a little bit of extra flair to it. So I broke out the folder full of transfers and I applied him with a nice standard Ultramarine and tactical unit markings. This, I think, was like the cherry on the top. It really finished off the model well and gave a beautiful feel for what I think is quite a nice result of a retro Ultramarine using contrast. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on retro Ultramarines, and it encourages you guys to go out and do the same if it is, of course, something that you are interested in. Okay, and there we have it, one completed retro contrast Ultramarine thing. I think he turned out pretty spectacularly. I'm very, very pleased with him. I have absolutely no intention of doing any more retro Ultramarines. I prefer the more modern style with the gold or silver trim or whatever. But I understand the appeal of the scheme now. I do like the model and I'm happy that it's in my collection. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give the video a like. If you, for some crazy reason, are not already subscribed to my channel, it would mean the world for me if you took 2 seconds out of your day and hit that subscribe button. Ask me any questions you like below in the comments and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. And if you would like to support me even further, the best way to do that is to click the link for my Patreon below and check out all those rewards. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.